Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology, the Institute of Lutheran Theologies, Christ School of Theology. And you've been watching a series of lectures on Immanuel Kant and his significance for theology. And I want to sum up some of the ground we've covered at this point. And I want to go back to Descartes, and then I want to show you Kant. Remember, for Descartes, Descartes is a dualist. Everybody recall that? In fact, he's known as a substance dualist. There's thought, right? And there's matter for Descartes. Substance dualist, thought and matter. The essence of thought is thinking, right? The essence of matter is extension. So things that have matter, you know, you got mass, you got shape, you got energy, you got momentum, of course, you got natural law, and guess what you got? You got determinism over here on the nature side of things. Over here, in the realm of thought, you have thoughts. You don't have these things over here, but you would have, let's say, imaginings, right? You have the hopings. You might have knowings, right? You know, mental kinds of things, right? Willings. And over here on the thought side of things, you have purpose, and you have freedom. Oh, and by the way, you got a soul, right? And it's immortal. Over here on this side of things, you just have matter, and it goes out of existence as all material things do. The point I want you to see that for Descartes, freedom and purpose show up in the so-called res cogitans side of things, right? But from the standpoint of the matter, it's not there at all. Kant is not a substance dualist. Matter and thought, spirit, now is replaced by the phenomenal, right? And because human beings are their own lawgivers, human beings cognize everything according to natural law. So guess what? You got matter, you got mass, you got shape, you got density, you got determinism down here, right? So from the standpoint of the phenomenal, that is what runs through the filters of our knowing, our cognitive apparatus, right? That standpoint, we have determinism. However, from the standpoint of the noumenal, we have duty, we have freedom, we have purpose, and guess what? Over here you end up with the God and immortality. But you don't really have a soul. You have kind of the inside of one, I guess. But Kant calls this the bare I think, transcendental unity of apperception, if you want to know this. But now the dualism of Descartes has been replaced by a type of dualism, but it's no longer a substance dualism. It's kind of a dualism of perspective, right? From the phenomenal standpoint, the natural sciences are over here, right? From the phenomenal standpoint, everything is deterministic. But over here, from the standpoint of morality, from the noumenal standpoint, all of a sudden all these wonderful things show up. These inside things, these internal stuff. Freedom, and purpose, and God, and immortality, and morality, and all of this stuff shows up here. So, now, when Descartes' at work, of course, God is a substance over here, which, no, he's not over here. God is a substance. Actually, he's over here. But God is a substance and he's causally related to things. Over here, of course, God is no longer a substance at all and not causally related to things at all. God is found in the inside. God is an idea, right? God is something that we can assert on the basis of other things. So, from the standpoint of a Kantian, when you look at things scientifically, like students have to look at them in the psychology class when they're undergraduates, everything falls under determinism. I remember I learned this as an undergraduate. It was kind of actually freeing for me. But if I lose that perspective and I have the experience, if you will, from the inside, then I'm free, right? So my freedom, in a sense, goes away as soon as I understand myself as an empirical ego. But now my transcendental ego, if you will, now, but for Kant, the transcendental ego is not a substance. It's a transcendental unity of apperception. But from the standpoint of that transcendental ego, there's this freedom. And from the standpoint of the empirical ego, it's gone. And I live in both of those, right? And there's something very unsettling about living in both of those realities. I guess it's Descartes said we lived in both of them, but at least, you know, my soul was a substance that had freedom. But here it's kind of like, well, from a certain standpoint, I have freedom, but from another standpoint, I don't at all. Kant recognized this, and he says there exists a fissure between the deterministic theoretical results of the first critique over here, right, and the practical, freedom-full results of the second critique, right? There's a fissure. There's an antinomy. There's something to be taken up, to use a later language of Hegel. How does one connect the determinism of the sensible world of nature over here with the freedom of supersensible moral activity? That's the question. And this is the problem that occupies Kant from the standpoint of the third critique, the so-called critique de Urteil, or the critique of judgment. I'm going to come right back and talk a little bit more about Kant and his importance for the theological tradition in about a minute or two. So stay with me. I am Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. I'll be right back. Thank you.